Hey, everybody. It's Linda Lippin here from Linda Lippin Pilates, Pilates Teacher Mastermind, and the Strong Bones Program. Thank you, everybody who's joining us. Today I am here with Lesley Logan.
Hello, everyone. I'm here. I'm going to see if I
Hello.
can hide this echo with a shirt. So we're going to get a little, sorry for the view. You're going to see the ceiling, but we're just going to cover the speaker.
Ooh.
Boom. Hopefully that helps.
Here we go.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's better.
This is what you
better.
learn in COVID. You're like, how do I find the light? What speakers
right.
do?
And we all learned it, and we all learned it on the fly, and it was all fine, right?
It's all fine. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, you and I have been teaching Pilates online for a long ass time.
I know. It's
like
true,
more than a decade, like back when other people, certain people in the world were telling everybody that we couldn't teach Pilates online and that we couldn't teach classical Pilates online, right? That's another one.
Yeah, I found that so fascinating. And I don't, maybe it's because I was really lucky and I lived down the street from Jay Grimes' studio and they were teaching people online around the world. And I was like, I don't know why, but like I'm watching it. They're doing great. It's working out just fine. So, I think people just get scared. They get scared of unknowns. And it's really, you have to, but when everything went the way it went, my clients, I don't know about yours, my clients were so used to seeing me like teach on a computer and then go teach them on a reformer. So it wasn't foreign to them. So yeah.
Right, exactly. And I had the same experience. And it was actually really funny because I popped into Real the other day when I was out running errands because I still live in the neighborhood. And I kind of looked at the equipment and I was like, nah, don't want to wipe it. Don't want to change the spring. I don't want to adjust it. I don't want to move a box. Like, I don't want to do it anymore. But I've been doing it for 32 years. Okay, so
Yeah.
It's been a while. And
yeah, you have a decade-ish on me, I think. A little bit.
Well, I'm super excited for this talk today, Lesley, because number one, I think that, Pilates teachers are burning out and they're burning out quickly and they're burning out online because, they're replicating the studio model that didn't work for any of us really in the studio online. So people are going extremely low ticket. They're attempting to go high volume, low ticket, which is a recipe for burnout and disaster, and a recipe for having clients who are not necessarily the most committed to you and your process.
Yeah, I mean, I think like first of all, the burnout was real before everyone went online, and I think and then people took themselves and the burnout and the habits that they created the burnout that they were in person, and they recreated it online. And I do understand the reason there's so many reasons people went low ticket. They went low ticket because they wanted to be more accessible, more inclusive to people who might be able to afford it, but they didn't market to those people and they didn't actually see if that was making it more accessible to the people they were trying to reach. Some people did, and they're thriving and they're not burnt out. And then others went low ticket because they thought, oh, I'm online now and now I'm cheaper because I don't have all the fancy surroundings. And this is a fun story I love to share with people because I do understand that. Like when I became a Pilates instructor, I was working for Equinox. Like talk about beautiful space, eucalyptus towels, someone's wiping down the equipment forever. You know what I mean? All the things, right? So I do understand that because when I opened my studio, none of my equipment was there when I had to open. I had a mat and I had a window chair and I had a C-shaper, and I was lucky to be able to borrow someone's pedipole. And I thought my clients are going to leave me. They're so used to 4 reformers, 4 window chairs, all these things from this other studio, and none of them did. And they actually fell in love with how much you could do on a pedipole. And they were like, what is this fancy thing we never play with? And, and so what I say to people all the time is like, your value is not determined by the walls that surround you or the equipment in front of you. It is not.
Right.
It is not.
Exactly.
And you have to know that because you're going to burn out because, and people, we can talk more about this too. People treat us how we train them to treat us.
Yes. Yes. So, when I hear, you're in all the same Pilates groups that I am, including mine, but none of this really happens in our groups because we don't let it, because we're good moderators. However, we're all in those groups where all we do is see people posting about them not loving their clients and not loving who they're teaching and not loving not being in a studio, but not loving being in a studio. And wouldn't it be better if we were on this equipment? And, what I found really interesting was when I was teaching at Parrot Key, right, in Turks and Caicos, I mean, we had balanced body equipment, old balanced body equipment that I had to like get new springs for and other things, but partly because, you're looking for good customer service in the Caribbean. Like if I needed something FedExed overnight, like we could pay for it. That wasn't the issue, but is it going to be FedExed overnight? Is it going to show up in the next month and a half? Because
Right.
my guest needs to
I have a
know.
house in Cambodia. I understand.
Right? Exactly. So, but what I realized there was, again, I didn't have a Cadillac for a long time. I didn't have, I had one chair. There was a lot of stuff that I was missing, and it was all fine. The clients all did really well. I think we had a couple of people who were like, for the money we're paying, they could buy a Cadillac, and ultimately they did buy a Cadillac. But that was not a judgment on me. It was a judgment on
Yeah.
the organization. But I think that what we don't realize is people come to do Pilates with us because they want to do Pilates with us,
Yeah.
because they want our take on their body, on the work, on the method, on whatever it is. And if we tell them that the work is less valuable without equipment, which is
Yeah.
what a lot of people did, right? A lot of people sold their studio sessions by saying it's better.
Well, because they were like, this is something that I really try to impart on people. And I know it's hard if you have the model that's set up that your equipment classes are this price and your mat classes are this price. But, we've been in COVID long enough and you can still blame anything on it. But when everything started, I said, you must change all of your classes to be the same price. And if you haven't started pricing your classes, make them all the same price. And here's why. If you make the mat classes the same amount of time, but less expensive, you're just telling people that it's less valuable. But I would say the mat, and I think anyone who does it knows it's the freaking hardest thing. You have
Right.
nothing else except for you, and you need the teacher to teach a mat class to help people understand where to feel it from requires even more teaching skills than teaching on a piece of equipment, because the springs and the ropes or the pulleys or the straps, whatever you're using, that gives the feedback that teaches the client. Like I get on my reformer and my teacher is there, but really like it's going to be fine. The springs are going to make me resist,
Right.
like there's something that's going to happen. Right. So I think, if we can all just get on this page where it's like, your classes, no matter what they are, should be the same price so that nothing is devalued. And then if you want to change different things, have smaller groups and make that more expensive because there's less people versus less equipment. And that's just going to really pandemic proof, flood proof, earthquake proof your business. Because then if you put in your client agreement, no matter where we offer the class, virtually or in person, your membership dues are due or your package is due, because it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter. And if you do all of that, you can offer things. And honestly, clients don't know unless we tell them, right? If you tell them, thank you, Claire Solis. Well said. If we tell them that, oh, it's more expensive because of the equipment, then of course they are going to see the different value. But if we tell them it's all the same, it's all Pilates, and if you have a reformer class, make people do the ab series on top of the box so they see some mat exercises in case you ever have to do it. I mean, it's really, really important. They don't know what to think. They know what we think.
Right. Right. And, I also find that what people really value are the results. They don't
Yeah.
value just doing Pilates. Like, doing Pilates in and of itself is something that we all might really enjoy and really get into and whatever. But for most of our clients, it's about the result. I'm
Yep.
doing Pilates, my back feels better. I'm doing Pilates, I can play golf and it doesn't hurt me. I'm doing Pilates and I got through my hip replacement with, a quicker recovery time and got back on my feet faster, like whatever that looks like for folks. I want to be able to get up and down off the floor with my grandkids. you know,
Yes. Yes. No,
yeah,
it's
that's
you're
what they're paying for.
that's 100%. This is what in my course, like first time to lifetime, one of the things that I always tell people is you're never selling Pilates. You are selling that you can see the problems in their body, the goals that they have, and that you can help guide them there. Most people, unless they've tried Pilates somewhere else before, honestly have no idea what it is and what to expect. They're not buying Pilates. They're buying, okay, I trust this person, right? And then I'm going to buy this package and I'm going to see how this feels. And then as they go through that package, they start to understand, oh, Pilates makes me feel really good. And this person sees me. This person understands me. This person holds me accountable to things, right? Like that's so, so important. And the truth is, you said it right there. People do it because they want to feel good. Our brains are predisposed to avoid pain and go towards pleasure. And so if you want clients for life, if you want to not feel burnt out, the way you teach should really be about like, oh, instead of this, how about we try it like this? Or instead of telling people, don't do that, don't use your shoulders, don't use your neck, that's not going to make them want to come back. They don't feel good there unless they're used to being talked down to as a child. They're not going to feel safe there. So if you actually instead can say, okay, try it again and do this. Tell them what to do, ask them how that makes them feel. You're going to have clients that really come to you to want to work because you're bringing them along in the process and you're allowing them to feel. Joseph Pilates, when he taught my teacher, Jay Grimes, Jay says his first cue from Joseph Pilates was use your gut. It wasn't don't make noise with the straps.
Right.
It was use your gut. He told them what to do.
Exactly. Not what not to do. And it was the same thing because Eve Gentry was my first teacher, and I got very similar stories from Eve, right? Where he, even with all of the rehab she was going through with the bilateral radical mastectomy and all of it, it was all about what she could do.
Yeah.
All about what she could do. And then when I knew her, she had full range of motion in her arms and was, doing all the things. And that's what Joe was able to do for people, right? And I think that as teachers too, we get a little confused sometimes with wanting our clients to feel things in specific places in specific ways. And I don't always find that neurologically that really works well for folks, and that what people want is to like feel good.
Yeah.
Like we might want to be like, well, that you should definitely feel in your abs. Well, why? My abs might be numb. I've had a total abdominal hysterectomy. I don't always feel them. I can do a teaser on the box. They're working.
Yeah. No, I thank you for saying that. My beginning years in Pilates, because of, I call myself a recovering perfectionist and overachiever. I still have the tendencies, but we're in recovery. We're working on awareness.
Yeah.
And my first years when I was a Pilates student, I did not have these problems. I just liked how Pilates made me feel, right? I just liked how it made me feel. When I went through a teacher training program, and I got all the not like this, it needs to look like this. You should be feeling it here. You got to close the spring all the way. And I'm like, the spring is not closed. My perfectionism, my overachieverism, took over, and the way I did my practice really changed. It was really frustrating. It became this like negative thing that I wasn't good at and I wasn't doing right. And in the journey that I had to go on, it took me some time, but I had a couple teachers who had that same mentality. And unfortunately, they made me feel really bad about myself. I cried several times because I couldn't feel my seat. I couldn't feel my lower abs. I had major stomach problems for 10 years. I couldn't feel my abs. So telling me to use my center, to use my abs, it just made me feel like I'm not even good enough to be a teacher. I can't even feel it where you're supposed to feel it. Luckily,
right.
And luckily in my journey, my teacher said, I found a new teacher, and she said, Lesley, you're just a different body, and that's okay. So we're going to, when I see that you're connected, we're going to see what you do feel. And then that's where you're connected, and that's your Pilates. And so that's when I started to realize, oh, everyone can feel it differently. Everyone can feel from a different spot. And, and I wish that everyone had my teacher, my latest teacher as someone who taught them. But my goal is like, if I can just pass it on to my own clients who happen to be a lot of teachers, if I can just say, look, it's okay if you don't feel it in your abs. What do you feel? That's great.
Yeah. Or they're like, but I should be feeling it in my abs. And I'm like, look, if you're in the position for the 100, your neck's not hurting you, your legs aren't cramping, and you're able to stay there and breathe, you're doing something in your abs. I don't know what else to tell you because you wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
And that's
Well, I mean,
actually one of the things I love about so many Pilates exercises are that if you're not doing them right, you actually can't do them.
100%. And it's like, when I was a teacher trainer for a while, that program worked on talking to the bones as opposed to muscles. And because what moves the bones, but the muscles, right? So as long as the bones are in the right spot, chances are the muscles got them there. Whether or
Mm-hmm.
not their brain and body have a connection that sends those things, sends them there is a different story, right? Because we all have different pathways, all different sensations and connections.
Right. And I think, we also, as Pilates teachers, need to understand that, as much as we would like to look at our clients and their habits and their things and what they're feeling, is that, when we're dealing with our own businesses, we need to be looking at our habits and
Yeah.
our ways of working and dealing. And, this is, so, as part of my story, when I pivoted fully online, the 100% online, I went for it. And, I shared some of this with you in our emails that I was like, fine, let's just do it. And I, was, again, we both serve the Pilates teacher community, in many ways. And I also, serve my women over 50 with osteoporosis. And I was doing a conversion event a month for both groups. Some of them were the full-on 5-day live launches. Some of them were just a 2-day thing. Some of them were a boot camp. Some of them were a webinar every single month. And I got sick,
Yeah.
I got sick. And now, and I had replicated my old thing where I only took 1 day off a week.
Oh yeah. Well,
Like
survival
I
mode
went
is an
right into
interesting thing.
survival
Yeah.
mode. Yeah.
It's so funny. I've just talked to 2 studio owners recently who their studios are thriving. We got them through,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and I said, it's okay to enjoy what you've created and to sit back and see what's working and what's not working. It's kind of like watching a client move without at all talking. Like just see what's happening, right? And so one of the things that I actually thrive in survival mode. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, the shoe just dropped. Don't worry, I know how to survive this.
Mama's got it.
Yeah, I got it. Don't worry. Like my husband and I went back to our vision. Like we're like, let's rework this because our vision is not clear. Like I was supposed to travel 140,000 miles last year. That didn't happen.
No.
So what is our new vision? What are we working towards? And then I took all of that and I dove deep with our teachers in our group. But I think a lot of people, when they went into survival mode, they were like, okay, I got to go all in. Like this is all I can focus on. And everyone got sick. I have never seen more people have shingles in my life, under like young people with shingles. And I'm like, it's because of the stress. And I'm someone who my stomach issues were all stress related and I didn't know it. And then by not knowing it, I was causing myself more stress, which is causing more stomach issues. And so I have to survive this life, have to make sure that my stress levels are at a manageable level. I
Right.
had to come up with all these things. And so, yes, I too started working 6 days a week. And I was like, okay, so what are we going to
Yeah.
do to support this? If we have to work, do we have to work this many hours? If so, what are we going to do to support ourselves? And how are we going to make sure that we fill our cup first? And here's the thing that I love to impart on all teachers is this. If you are not filling your cup first, it is impossible for you to show up fully because it's like if I took this and right now it's half filled. So if I were to go start my day teaching with half filled and someone's like, can I have a sip of water? I'm gonna be like, how much like, can I give this person a sip? How much
Right.
sip of this person I want to give, right? And so even if we are people pleasers, even if you are someone who's a giver, you're not going to give that. You're going to pour like a little Dixie cup. You're like, yeah, you can have this much. But if I fill this up and someone's like, I'm really thirsty. Oh, here, have a cup of water, right? Here, how do I help you? We cannot go through our day without our cup being filled. And so that doesn't mean you have to do an hour of Pilates on yourself in the morning, but it does mean you have to have something in your morning that fills you up, whether it's meditation, maybe you do the 100, maybe you do a wall series, maybe go for a walk and get some sunshine, but you have to take care of you first if 6 days is what you have to do to survive. And I get it. Like we all have different bills and different expectations, but there's no excuse for putting yourself last because if you put yourself last, your clients they're not going to go, oh, wow, Linda's putting herself last. I should stop calling her for a third session this week. No, they don't know. You told them they could have that many sessions. And so, it's really important that we take care of ourselves so that we train our clients to also be part of that. And then we can actually, without cognitive dissonance, tell them, hey, you know what? You actually have to do 3 weekdays of Pilates a week because you give to this many people and you do this, and there's not resentment, there's not cognitive dissonance, and it feels really good.
Exactly. And that's what I found was that, now I take 2 days off a week. Turns
Oh,
out didn't really have to work those 6 days, right? Made that decision, doing fine. Some of it did come because, again, we were in kind of survival mode and I got through the survival mode. And I think what a lot of folks need to know is that even when you're moving from survival mode to thrive mode, inside your brain still thinks you're in survival mode.
yeah.
And if you've spent years of your life, as many of us have as Pilates teachers, whether we were dancers first, whether we, came in injured, however it was we got into teaching Pilates, a lot of us were even told in our training that we would never make good money teaching Pilates, right?
I
That it would
know.
always
I hate
be
that.
kind of a side thing. Like, what is that? I don't even know where that came from. And I'm not saying that everyone has to have like a 7 or 8 figure business, because you don't. But I think the majority of human beings who I know who are teaching Pilates would be really happy in like a high 5, maybe low 6,
Yeah.
income range, where they're
And it's
happy and they can pay their bills and do their things. And
it's 100% attainable, and you don't have to
yeah,
charge hundreds of dollars a session to do it. You know, it's something I really do preach. I'm on a mission of like figuring out who the heck is spreading that rumor, because because they're just so 100% wrong. They're wrong. And the reason they say that is because they haven't, but that doesn't mean that someone else can't. And the reason they haven't is because either they're not clear on their mission, vision, and values. They're not clear on who they're here to serve, and they're not saying no enough. And I'm not saying like, some people think, oh, Lesley's going to hate this because I want to have a free community class. Have a free community class. Charge everyone else $5 extra. Take those $5 and pay yourself for that community class so you actually
yes,
market it. So that you have value on that class because you got paid to teach it, and you can then put effort into marketing to the people that you want in that community class, or take that money and pay for a teacher closer to those people you want to reach to teach it at a community center. Like, there's ways to make sure that Pilates is accessible to others that doesn't have to devalue you or make sure that you're not paying your bills or that you're not being paid for your time. There's so many ways of doing this. And I think like, if you believe there's no money in Pilates, I promise you won't make any. But if you do believe there is some, you will. And if you believe that your clients are all going to be mean and take advantage of you, they will. My teacher was talking to one of the teachers in this weekend that I was at, and he said to her point blank, your problem is you're a people pleaser. And that's why your business will never be satisfying for you, because you're so busy worrying about what people are going to think. Like Joe wasn't a people pleaser,
no,
like it or love it. He was like, get out of my studio. Don't,
right,
but
yeah,
you don't have to be like him to say, you know what, this might not be the right place for you. Here's a place that is. We were talking before we went live about community. My studio, when I had it in LA, I was one of 18 studios within a 2-mile radius, one of 30 studios within a 3-mile radius. And that's the ones I could find on Google. So we all know a lot of Pilates teachers have no technology and no website, but
yes,
so my studio was right across the street from a studio that's $200 a month unlimited, and I had privates that were $125. And when people would just say, "Oh, that's a lot for me," I just say, "You know what? I totally understand. Here are some options for you. Here's my online option. Here's this studio that's $200 unlimited. There's these 3 studios over here." When someone came to me and was like, "Oh, my father has Parkinson's. Can you teach him?" No, I can't, but someone else can. And here's my list of people to send you to. Like, it's okay that you can't teach every single person, and because we all have strengths, and just know the teachers that have these strengths you don't have, and refer out. And guess what? Reciprocity is real. It's like a human condition. You send teachers clients, they're going to send you clients, and it's really going to be great.
yeah. Okay, so I find like in Pilates Profit Lab and Pilates Teacher Mastermind, people so resist niching,
I
so
know.
resist niching, and niching, like for me, was a huge piece of the burnout prevention for me, right? Was basically being able to kind of double down and say, this is who I serve. And also, and we were talking about this too, how you and I had both kind of left the Pilates world to kind of find community and find good business networking kind of models and ways of being in business. Because I'm sorry, if Joe had handled his business correctly, we wouldn't have had the lawsuit. Okay, there is some, and that's,
Well,
and I'm not even going to bring it
he
up.
would have had to pay taxes to do.
Yeah, there would have been he would have had to file taxes with the business. There would have been like a whole thing. So, let's face it. The man was not, a business genius. However, he was a marketing genius, and he was really good at marketing to both the high end and the lower end at the same time. And, people who are like, well, we do work with dancers and it was whatever. I'm like, he charged $5, which is the equivalent to $95 today.
Yeah.
Okay, which is not cheap.
And dancers are paying it.
And where was his ancillary studio? What store was that in? Was that in Woolworth? I don't think it was. I think that was in Bendel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He didn't go low end. He went for, these are where my customers are. Like, I know these ladies, they will have lunch and then they will go see Kathy.
Yeah.
And then they will go see their personal shopper and it'll be all good, right?
I think people, again, it goes back to people pleasing. It goes to not being comfortable saying no to money. And then also Seth Godin says this a lot. He says, people are afraid to niche down because they fear rejection. And they fear, if I niche down to this small group and then they don't say yes to me, then I'm fully been rejected. So I'm going to be here for everybody so that someone likes me. And here's the deal. When people reject you, it's not a personal thing. It is in your messaging. Your messaging didn't actually hit the people you're trying to talk to, period. So I niche down to women, elder millennials, young Gen Xers who are recovering perfectionists overachievers. I have a lot of teachers who like to take from me just because of who trained me and how I teach. But the reality is most of my clients are women who are recovering perfectionist overachievers, and I see them and I go, oh, you're letting that get in the way of you. Let's, do this. Now, that doesn't mean, so I had all these clients who were in their 70s when I was teaching. That doesn't mean I can't teach them. I could teach them and I liked some of them, so I did. And the ones that treated me badly, that were rude to me, were fired and sent to a teacher that was best for them. And here's the funny story. I had this one woman who I shouldn't have said yes to. When she came in for a session, she was referred by another teacher who was a client of mine. And she's like, she's my friend. I just want to teach my friend. I was like, okay, that's fine. She came to me and it happened to be in the summer when my sessions are always a little bit lower and I was hiring people. And so I had this scarcity mindset for a moment, just enough to say yes to this client. As soon as I took her money, I was like, this was a mistake. She, of course, is that person who every single day that she has a session was like, can I move to this time? Can I move to this time? And of course I ignored her texts. And I just was like, I would text her right before a session. Oh, I hope to see you at your normal time because I'm working, but it still took up brain space. So anyways, one day she was really rude to one of my clients, my young perfectionist overachiever, who took that personally, of course, because that's who she is. And I was like, now we have a massive problem because now it's not just affecting me. Now you're affecting my peeps. So I just said to her, you know what? I'm so sorry. Your schedule requires more flexibility than I have. And I have a friend who just moved to town who's an excellent teacher and she is closer to your house actually. So I'm going to connect you to her and here's your money back. And I had to pay her $1,200 back. Bye. I have to do this. I'm not kidding. The weight off of my shoulders for doing that. If you're burning out, it's because you are not niching down. You're teaching everybody, which means you have to come up. Like I had to figure out, how do I teach this artist who wants to change her time all the time? When you are trying to be everything for everyone, you can't, you will burn out. So niching down does not mean that you can't teach other people. It also doesn't mean that Pilates isn't for everybody. It just means that you are super qualified to teach this person because of your training, because of your background, because of your personal experience, and then get to know the community. You don't have to love them, but get to know who's really great at these other things and send people to them.
Right. Which, it's one of those strange things that so rarely happens in the Pilates world. And when it does, you're like, what? Wait, you sent me somebody? How did this even happen? And I find that very interesting because it's like, when you want to go, I mean, when you have a GI issue, you don't want to go to a cardiologist. You want to
Right.
go to the gastroenterologist.
Right.
And if you're having nervous system issues, you want to go to a neurologist. Like, there's reasons why people have these specialties. And are they all in general MDs? Yes.
Yeah.
Could they all be useful in case of emergency? Yes. Um, but that doesn't mean, and by the way, the ones who are the most specialized and niched in make the most amount of money, as we know, have the least amount of patients, right, in a pool,
Yeah. Oh,
percentage
patience,
wise,
not patience.
right? But are making the most amount
Yeah.
of money. And that's, also, something interesting, I think, to remember. And as teachers also, I always remind people, you can change your niche.
Oh, yeah.
10, 15 years ago, partly because of being, in Tribeca, which is a lot of, large young families, because we're down by Wall Street and there's a lot of bigger space down here. So we have a lot of huge families, which means that we have a lot of women with diastasis.
Yeah.
And I've always been really good at the diastasis recti hernia thing. So that was my specialty for a long time. I mean, I still do, teach continuing education on it, do that whole thing. And then I kind of reached this point where maybe because I'm about to turn 55 and I'm more interested in bone strength and moderation and all of that, that I just didn't want to hear about the nannies anymore and the
I
baby
know.
stories and the whatever. Like, I was no longer interested in that population. And not to say that I don't still have clients there or that people who are still my friends who I hang out with, but it just became not
Well, yeah.
so thrilling for me anymore. And now I'm more interested in working with my peers, which is women over 50 with osteoporosis and or chronic pain.
And they
Those
and
are
they
my
also
people.
and they also want to work with you. And I think, like, when you niche and when you change your niche because you got really, like, usually something happens to you, maybe it's a family member or yourself, and you go down the rabbit hole of understanding it and you change. Some of your clients will change with you. So, like, my perfectionist overachiever clients are the woman I was before I knew what Pilates is. So we're going to age together. And a lot of them will stick with me even if I change what I'm
Right.
focused on or what I'm into, right? But, that doesn't mean you have to fire all your diastasis clients once you've changed
No.
your niche. It just means, like, you start marketing towards this other group of people. And in time, either people go, hey, Linda, you know what? My diastasis is good. Or I moved town or I moved across town. Some people organically leave you. And then the new clients will come in. And then at some point you might go, okay, I actually am like, I really don't have any more time in my schedule because I'm really focused on this. And I'm going to give you the best teacher who can work with you. And people, yes, it sucks to be broken up with, but they also get it. They also don't want a teacher who's 50% in on their thing. They want the
Right.
teacher who's 100%
Right.
in.
Yeah. And that's what I do now. So I've got people, and I've got people all over the country for that. If you want to work online and,
Yeah.
and they're contemporary and they're classical. So, I do have those people who are like, I really want to be on Gratz and I want like full on Romanas. And I'm like, great, I got that for you. And then other folks who are like, I'm used to a more contemporary thing. I'm used to whatever. And I'm like, great, I've got somebody in California, teaches online, fully
Yeah.
on board with this. And it's such a relief, right? Am I right, Lesley? It's such a relief to just be able to let that go. And I also want people to know that, like, Lesley and I teach in the same space, right? We
Oh, yeah.
do. We are both classical Pilates teachers. We both teach on Gratz. We both do serve the Pilates teacher community through our coaching programs and other things like that. But we're different people and we are going to attract different Pilates teachers. I prefer the Pilates teachers who have been teaching for at least 5 or 10 years, you
Yeah.
know,
I
or been in Pilates, even if they weren't teaching it for that long.
Yeah.
And then are so they've got that kind of maturity level. They've already been there with the studio. They're trying to figure out, where to move or where
Right.
to
That's a niche. You're
expand or
like,
what to do from that.
I'm really good at people who've been in it for 5 years or around that time.
Right.
I definitely, because of how I got into coaching people in business, my range was huge. So, but my niche is if you need a template, I'm not your coach because there's no template for me. Like
Right.
there's
Me
your
neither.
vision, there's your goals, and I'm going to give you tips and you have to take action. So if you need someone to do the work for you, I'm not your coach, and that's okay, you know. But I think like I think there's 7.5 billion people on the freaking planet, and we're all freaked out about a studio opened up across the street, or like I'm living in a new neighborhood. There's like 400 homes here. I do have a home studio. It's for myself.
Hmm.
If you visit Vegas, DM me, and if I'm
Yeah.
teaching on that day, you're welcome to have a session. But it's for me, right? There are 3 home studios in this neighborhood. 3. And I'll never forget, like somebody I was at a barbecue and someone goes, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm a Pilates teacher." And they're like, "Oh, so and so's a Pilates teacher." And she's like, "Oh, do you have a home studio?" I said, "Oh, I have a home studio." And I saw her face fall. And I said, "I just want you to know, it's just for me." What's your number? I'll send people who want a home studio experience to you. Like it was I just and
Right.
it went fine, but I know that not everyone sees a new studio in town as like opportunity. That I know what that is, but I would love to see people realize like it's okay, because here's what happens. The more people that are teaching Pilates in your area, the easier it is for you to get people to want to do Pilates, because it's not foreign, it's not weird, it's not the random. I have a client who is the only Pilates studio in her town, the whole town, and for like 45 minutes around it. And she said, I feel like because she used to live in LA, she's like, I feel like because there's no other studios in town, there's actually no urgency to be better because there's no competition. There's
Oh, that's
actually no
interesting.
competition. So we can just be, we can just be what we are. And so she's like, I just feel like there's this lackadaisical thing in the studio. And she said, also, we're constantly trying to tell people what Pilates is. When Club Pilates opened up and all these other Pilates reformer studios opened up, I thought it's great. They're marketing Pilates. I get to market how I help people. And then the messenger, the vehicle of that is Pilates. And it is, so don't see more competition as bad. See it as, oh, now it's less weird and it's much easier to tell people what I do with that method.
Well, and don't we all want to? I mean, when you look at it from a business perspective, right? Haven't we all had like those weird businesses that open in your neighborhood that don't seem to like fit any niche, where you're like, who had this idea? Because I don't know anyone who needs this. Like literally nobody. Like in my neighborhood, right? So I'm down by the Brooklyn Bridge, and there was a business that opened on Nassau Street for a brief moment that sold the fresh fruit bouquets.
Okay. Oh, yeah,
Remember
yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
The
I forget.
fruit and the cookie bouquets. I forget what they were
Yes.
called, but that was already being done online. And I looked at the storefront when it opened, and I'm like, no one's going to do this.
Right.
Like, I'm not like, and I'm sure whoever opened it thought, great, nobody's doing this. Well, what I've
Right.
really learned about business is that for the most part, if nobody's doing it, it's because there's no money to be made there. And that's
Oh,
why nobody's doing
you're so correct. So, I was listening to a
it.
podcast and this guy started a beer, right? And they're like, "Wow, you started a beer. That space is like so dominating." He's like, "Yeah, I'm not trying to convince people to start drinking beer. I just have to convince people that my beer is the one that they want to drink." So
Right.
the market is already there. And I think so often, so many people are like, I need to be super unique. You're unique as a human being already. Like the chances of you being born is like one in something million sperm actually hitting the egg and it being you. So it's like you're super unique already by being yourself already there. So if you niche down in a market that is already something people understand, you are going to grab those people who are like, oh, they see me. They see me and I feel seen. People want to feel seen. That is all they want. No one sees them. That's why they want people to like their pictures on Instagram and they only have 15 followers. Someone that heart feels, I feel seen. They get this dopamine kick. They go back to feel seen again. If you in your teaching are actually making people feel seen by saying their name, by when you teach them several times, when you check in with them, they feel seen, they'll be your client forever. That's all they want.
It's true. And, all those little things, everyone gets a cent in the mail holiday gift from me.
Oh, that's so
They
sweet.
do. I got stuff to Cairo. I don't even know how I did this, but but there are little to live in Pilates notebooks
Oh my God, that's so cute. You
like
know what's
all
really
over the world right now because I wanted actually all of my clients to have, especially in that crazy year,
yeah,
a physical gift that they could
yeah.
open up the card and just be like, awesome, this is great.
Well, and people are probably going, how did she do that? What did you do? I don't have this kind of money. Y'all, Printful ships around the world. And yes, the
Hey,
margins are not great. Like you're not going to make your millions having lines on Printful, but you can certainly create a gift and have a
yes,
mug or have a notebook or have a water bottle and it will ship around the world. I have
yeah,
team members on the Philippines and we're able to send them merch for the companies that they work for, which they love because it's like they get something like no one else has in the Philippines. No one even knows what this podcast is, but they get to have this and it ships there. And so, go on, get creative and you don't have to spend a ton of money, but anything you can do to make people feel seen is going to make you stand out. But, I think just going back to the whole just niching thing, it's like people get upset, like, what is my niche? They freak out, like, put all this pressure on myself. Honestly, ask the clients you have what they say you do. What do you do? How do you make them feel? So what does Pilates make you feel? Or when your friends ask what this is, what do you say? The words they use, that's your niche.
exactly. And then I'll also say to them, actually, if you, most times when people sit down and actually write down all the common things that their clients have, they end up with the niche. They're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I really work with women who are between this age and this age who have these issues, who are at this economic level and have this many children. I mean, literally, it will just kind of break down. And they're like, wow, I niched and I didn't even know
Yeah.
that I was niching. And I was like, well, that's what happens because then you kind of hang on to the clients who you like working with, who you have that connection with, and then you just continue taking that kind of deep dive together, and then when they have a friend with a similar problem, they send them over, and it just continues to kind of grow and perpetuate in that way. And I also think what you said about the fact that there are billions of people in the world and each of us can maybe handle 20 of them.
Right.
Like I often say to people, like, what would you do if you woke up tomorrow and somehow the universe dropped 100 prepaid clients in your lap? Like that cash was there, that was in Stripe, it was on its way to your bank. Nothing's getting sent
Yeah.
back. Nothing's returned. That money's there. What would you do? Could you do it? What would you do with those 100 clients that you somehow think you need? And then they think about it and they're like, well, shit. I don't know that I want 100 clients. Actually, I think I want 10 or 20. And I'm like, right.
Yeah.
So out of those, 6 million people, you want 10 or 20.
Yeah. And here's the thing, you probably already have them in your contacts. And if you don't have them in your contacts have them in their contacts. And so, I think a lot of burnout comes from oh, I gotta post things on social media and I gotta teach all these people classes and I gotta look good. I gotta look perfect doing whatever I post on social media. Let me just tell you, most of your clients are not finding you on Instagram. Two, the
They're not.
problem with most teachers burnout is that they're looking at other teachers on Instagram. I like honestly, stop following other teachers. Your client, like if you're unless it's your client, like follow
It
people
doesn't
that you wish
matter.
you were teaching so that you knew their pain points, you knew their problems, you knew how they wanted to feel. No, regular human beings. My husband walks by. He has been my husband for 7 years, right? He has been in the Pilates world forever. He's been filming Jay Grimes. He filmed him for 3 years. The man knows what Pilates looks like. I'm walking, he walks by and I'm like in my mind going, oh, my shoulder's not connected, whatever. He's like, oh, good snake. It's like, and I'm like, it's not fucking good snake, right? But what I say this story to is you are picking out your problems in your practice. The average person is making sure that you are doing something that they feel like they could do. So snake and twist is not going to get the average human being to go, ooh, that's exactly what I want to do. No, curling your head and chest up off the floor without pain and your feet lifting up, that's something they want to do. Like they would love to be able to sit up out of bed. So, so you don't have to be
Right.
impressive. And just so often I just see people trying to like do these crazy things on Instagram that's actually not getting you clients, actually scaring a lot away because they don't
That's what
even
I was
know what
just
it
going to
is.
say.
They don't know what
Like,
it is. And
I
they're like, I
look
can
at
do that.
that shit and it scares me. I look at half the stuff online where there's like a ball and another thing on another unstable thing on another thing with a spring, and I'm like, why? Number one, I fear for your safety in this, and we've all seen those videos. We've watched the spring bars break, we've watched springs break, we've watched trapezes break. Like, stuff happens. Um, and if I were a client, like, I would be like, there is no way. There is
Right.
absolutely no way I would ever work with you because you scare me. Because watching you scares me.
Well, and or they're
What are you
thinking,
going to do with
oh,
me if you'll do that with yourself?
yeah, they're thinking I can't do that. So it's better to be interesting versus like intriguing. Like you don't want to be something people watch at Cirque du Soleil. You want to be something that people go, "Oh, can you tell me how you did that?" Like that's what you want, right? So like I see a trainer 3 times a week. My dad and I go together. Sometimes Brad joins us a couple days a week and I know what she can do, right? Because I know that she does these competitions. I know she never shows it in the studio. She doesn't show it on her Instagram. She shows us what is possible for us to do. Right. So, like, that's
Right.
what she shows. So, if you're trying to get pre postnatal clients, ladies, and you're doing jumping lunges on the reformer, and then you're doing things like crazy back bends, no pregnant woman's like, oh, okay, this is good. This is good for me. You have to think
Mhm.
about the people that you're trying to serve. I saw someone have a comment like, yes, to not following other teachers unless you're creating community. Yeah, if you're creating community, great, create the community. But if you are trying to serve the public, what does your public need to see to know that this is what they need versus CrossFit or Beachbody or whatever? Like, how do you get them to see, like, I get you, I see your pain, and I know how to help you? Like, that's what they want to know.
Right. Exactly. And I also find it interesting how we tend not to. I don't understand how Pilates teachers think that they're going to connect with clients who are not Pilates teachers when all they do is spend times in Pilates teacher groups.
That's probably why you don't find me
And
there. I mean, I
again,
I spend time with my teacher group, but
right, me
that's where you'll
too.
find
I'm
me.
in Pilates Profit Lab a lot and in Pilates Teacher Mastermind VIP a lot, but they're my people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I should be in that group. I'm in the other Pilates groups very tangentially, and sometimes it's just for me to see kind of what we're talking about. Like, I just want to see the zeitgeist. I want to see what people are bitching
You're
about, right?
you're
I
so brave.
seriously.
Send me the
And
cliff notes.
yeah, like, I just want to, I just want to see like a little bit of kind of what's going on. Most of the time, I find it kind of horrifying, but it's okay.
It just makes me sad because I actually think that we're we're so busy trying to see who's doing right versus who's doing wrong or who's got what we want and why don't they deserve it? Like we're so obsessed with
Right.
other teachers. We should be so obsessed with the people that we want to be teaching, like obsessed with them, right? So you can, like, if you're wanting to teach 20 somethings because your studio's in a college area, you should be one on TikTok, and two, you should be following 20 somethings in your area. Use the location tab, use the thing, see what they're talking about, then create the content that's talking about that too, and how your method, how your way of teaching can actually help them do what they want to do more. You want to TikTok more? You want to be able to dance more? You want to be able to move your hips? You be connected to your center. Here's how you do that. Like you should be obsessed with the type of person. You should know who they're following. You should know what books they're reading. That's what you should obsess with, not what
Be
other teachers
obsessed
are
with your
doing.
clients, not your competition. Being
Right.
obsessed with your competition is not helpful. And I even had one of my teacher clients said to me this week, because she's slowly raising her prices, right? And much of what she said to
Yay!
me was, but then I was thinking that I should do this package at this price because then it's only $15 more than than what the other teachers in the studio are charging. And I was like, honey, number one, it's a fucking rental studio. So your clients have no idea what the other teachers are charging, nor would they unless they worked with them. I'm
Yeah.
like, number two, they're not the other teacher's clients, so who cares? Number three, they're already paying you and they'll just pay your $5 increased price because it's like less than the cost of a tall coffee at Starbucks at this
My
point.
lattes at Starbucks are somehow over $5. No one asked me if I was okay with that price increase. No one, like no one asked me that. So
Right.
this
And
bracelet that
teachers
I've
are
been,
like,
yeah,
you want me to raise my rate $5? And I'm like,
yeah,
it's $5.
right.
Five.
And here's the thing, whether if you're the most expensive person in town or not, it doesn't matter. If someone is rejecting you based on the prices on your website, they're not looking for the person to
Right.
help them. They're looking for the person who fits in their budget, which is totally different. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Like if I have been there with no money. So
Right.
we have ebbs and flows in our business where I'm like, absolutely I can pay that much for that coach. Oh, you know what? Actually, right now I can't. So
No.
either wait and save up and aspire, or I go the other route. So it's not personal, but if people are already working with you and they love you and you're raising your rates, rarely will they leave you because they hate change more. You make them feel seen, you make them feel good. They hate change more. And then there's other things. Y'all can get really creative. They can't afford a private anymore. Great. This private person can't either. You two are duetting right now. Now you're making more money in the hour. They're actually paying less than they were paying before. So now they're saving money towards, maybe they get to take a private once a month with that extra savings. Like there are ways to make things
Mm-hmm.
accessible for people if you start to price yourself out of what some clients can have. But the other thing, y'all, if you raise your prices 15%, let's say just do 15%, you can lose 15% of your clients making the same amount of money in less time. So it's going to be okay. Math is really fun.
my favorite thing to say is if you doubled your prices tomorrow and half your clients walked, you'd be making the same amount of money working half the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Which,
And
like
there's no downside to that.
there isn't. I think it's people are just so scared of being rejected. They're so scared of being rejected because, again, also as teachers, we want to feel seen. But people paying you is not them seeing you. It's repaying the energy you gave to them.
Right.
You want to feel seen?
Exactly.
Have a teacher teach you.
Yeah.
That's how
Or
you
come
feel
into
seen.
one of our groups
Yeah.
where people are positive and give out
So
information
yeah,
and
I
where
know.
we kick people away who don't follow the rules.
Well, 100. I am very strict on my rules.
Me too.
I'm like a rules person, but that's because I want everyone to feel super, super safe. And I don't, like everyone is like, you can't prevent every single person from being triggered, but you can have an adult conversation with the person who was triggered and the person who did the triggering. And you can go, okay, what part of this is theirs and what part of this is yours? And like, how do we do this in the future? And then guess what? We all learn something from this. So it's about
Right.
like, it's definitely a lot of moderation, but I make sure in my group, I talk to you. Whether you talk to me or not, I text you in there every single week. We're either texting on your goals or we're texting in a DM, but I'm going to make sure that you get a little ding from me every single week somewhere in there because that's how you get seen. And then I hope that people just take classes from someone, if not me, so that someone's pouring into them. But clients are not there to serve your need to feel seen.
No,
Clients are
no,
there to
no, no.
repay your energy for pouring into them. And that's with money.
Right. That's all that is.
I feel
Yeah,
like we're like going to solve the world's problems right now, Linda.
we could right now, the whole thing, because that's really what it is. I mean, people do want to be seen, and this is a deep basic need that we have. And as we know, our brains will kind of run us. Our brains our unconscious just wants everything to be homeostasis all the time. If
Yeah.
like for our brains, if we could just stay the same all the time and keep it cool, they would be very
Yeah.
happy. But that also does not then allow us to grow and to push, right? And when we grow and push, I mean, Tila Anderson and I were talking about this yesterday on her live. Every time we push, every time we grow, we get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that uncomfortability is not rejection. It's not the universe rejecting you. How many times,
that should
like,
be a
do your
shirt.
clients say that to you?
Comfortability is not rejection. Love that.
Right? Well, I'm uncomfortable, so maybe the universe is just trying to tell me that this isn't the time. to do this,
Oh,
right?
can we just talk
Have
about
you
that for
heard
a
this?
second?
Have you heard
Yes,
that one?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, these
And I'm
doors
like,
keep closing, so this is not the right path. This is not the right thing.
right. I'm like, your unconscious brain is trying to just keep you steady right
Yeah.
now
Yeah,
and
your
keep you the
lizard
same.
brain doesn't like change because it doesn't
Nope.
know what that is and it's fearing. And all you have to say is, hey, thank you for letting me know that we actually don't know what's on the other side of this, but I'm a Pilates teacher, not a brain surgeon. So I can actually go and explore over there without hurting
Right.
anything to myself.
Right.
And I actually think obstacles, uncomfortability, the doors closing your face are not signs you shouldn't be doing the thing. It's like, how much do you want this? Are you going to go through this uncomfortability? Because on the other side of it is actually what you said you wanted and what you learn, the muscles you have to work, the things you have to think about, the things you have to learn that helps you when you get to the next level. Like I always think about, I was born in the 80s, y'all, so Mario Brothers, right? I always think about when you do the levels in Mario Brothers, when you go through level 1, 2, 3, it gets harder and harder and harder to get to the castle. And then at the castle, you see all the things, all the obstacles that you learn in levels 1, 2, and 3, right? Why do you see them? So this is you testing what you learned before you go to the next level, right? Before you
Right.
pass this area, can you remember what it was like to have to jump over this mushroom? Do you remember what it was like to attack this person? How do you like, right? So you get through that, then you get to the next level, and now you have new level, new devil. So, but you, again, you learn, you have little low levels where you learn one thing at a time, and then you get a big challenge. So in your business, in your life, when you have doors closing, it's a test to see, can you learn this? Because on the other side of this, you're going to see this again. And if you can't get through it now, you're not going to get through it later.
Right. And it's going to show up. It's always going to show up.
Yeah.
So, Lesley, because I do have to go soon, because I do have a client, I
Oh, good
just
for you.
realized. Where can people get in touch with you? Because I'm pretty sure that you have an awesome free event
Yeah.
talking about habits, about client retention, and about burnout prevention coming up
Yeah.
next week.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. So it's on Tuesday. That's a live free webinar. I'm actually going to teach you all how to actually create habits and routines that stick. And then because such a simple thing, once I teach you, you're going to practice it. You can teach it to your clients, and that's how you're going to keep client retention, right? So, and the burnout, it goes away because there's this little thing called celebration that is super important for creating habits and routines. So you'll go to onlinepilatesclasses.com/habits to sign up. We already have 200 people signed up for this. Like how
Nice.
freaking cool is that? I'm so excited. And I am on a mission to
Well
get
done.
500 because I know that this information is going to change lives. It's a domino effect. It's a ripple effect. And I'm all about that. So onlinepilatesclasses.com/habits. There is a 3-day replay because I know time zone's a thing and some of you have to teach and So all you have to do is make sure you set aside an hour between Tuesday and Thursday to watch it.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
This is
Thank
so
you
fun. We'll have to do it
so
again. I really
much.
enjoyed a conversation with you. This is great.
We will have to do it again. I think I'm happy to come on yours,
Yeah.
and we'll just keep talking. Teal and
Yeah.
I do it like once a month now because we just have so much to say that we just keep
I love her. I met her at a PMA and I don't
going.
even remember where it was, but I just remember at a fire pit and she's amazing. So
Oh,
yes,
was it
we'll
the
have
year
to
that
have
she
you.
and Juan came and they were with Gross a couple of years ago?
No, it was
Yeah.
definitely, oh yes, it was. You're
Yeah.
correct. They were with that. Yes, you are. That's
Okay.
where that was. I don't remember. It must have
Yeah.
been, is either Vegas or Monterey. Must have been
I think
Monterey.
it
I
was
feel like I met
Monterey.
there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, I missed them both. Okay, well, go teach your client. Everyone, if you want us to do
Okay.
this again, tell us what you want us to talk about. DM me or DM
Yeah.
Linda and let us
That's
know,
right.
and
Keep
we'll
telling us
have
what
another
to
riff.
say. We
Yeah.
will. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And I will put the link to your program in the comments to the
Oh,
video.
thank you so much.
All right. Bye,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.
All right. We're going to end that.